Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Progressive Overload Podcast. Have you ever thought about strengthening multiple areas of your life at the same time? Then you've come to the right place. Our goal is to help you identify ways that you might need a progressive overload to break through those plateaus and keep you growing.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Progressive Overload Podcast. It's me, Adam Lazarine, and I'm here with Dustin Moore.
Yo.
And Joe Copeland.
How are you today?
He's full of hot air, apparently. Have you ever thought about people that have the worst breath talk that way? Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Not that Joe has bad breath. It just reminded me.
It really accentuates the smell, right?
Yeah. And
it's so true.
How are you?
They're always like within 1 foot of your face.
Invading your personal space.
Oh, yeah. In the bubble.
And you take a step back and they take a step forward.
How exciting for us. Welcome, everyone, back to the subject at hand, the Progressive Overload Podcast. We are excited that you're here. Can't wait to get into today's topic. What is today's topic, Joe?
You don't know?
No, I don't know, but I'm flexible.
Okay. We're going to talk about one of my favorite eating methods. I don't like to call it a diet, even though it kind of is, but called flexible eating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
I know.
Flexible eating.
You ever heard of that?
Is that like a bad piece of celery?
No, gross.
Is that where I get to eat pizza while doing yoga?
I love that approach. Well, kind of, because flexible
with a goat.
Flexible
we're on to
eating
something, Adam.
allows room for a slice of pizza here and there. You know, that's the whole basis around the approach. Is it's a way of eating that allows flexibility within certain confines of what you set up for it. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today is the flexible dieting approach.
Good. Well, before we do that, we have something else that we have all dipped our feet into.
Oh,
is that
reluctantly?
Reluctantly?
Yeah.
I've dove head first.
Dove.
Do you hit concrete?
No, the bottom wasn't that hard of a hit.
Okay.
We tell people with our lake etiquette, because we have people on our boat all the time, do not dive in water that you cannot see the bottom.
Yes.
That's safety first, Dustin.
It is.
Well, I mean, whether I can see it or not, I swim like a rock, and so I'll find the bottom somehow.
All right. And what is the bottom of this that we're talking about? This is the Kyokin Kid Summer Slim Down.
Don't you love the name I gave that?
Yeah, you sure did. Shout out to our friend Tyson Burwell, who is also known as the Kyokin Kid.
And has been on the podcast
Been on the podcast. How exciting for him, I'm sure.
I know.
And
so
what is that? What is the slim down thing, Dustin?
I guess best way to sum it up is Tyson, who we all know and love. Shout out to him, like you said. He has a fight coming up, and in preparation for that is having to slim down to make his goal weight before the fight. And we, as a group, talking with him, were talking about how we needed some motivation, and one thing led to another, and we're basically joining him in this journey of slimming down up until the point of his fight.
Yeah.
I'm excited just to be able to offer him that encouragement of he's not doing it alone,
Right.
but also have the motivation to continue and push that in my own life.
Sure.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tyson's gym, the Dominion Fighting Alliance, will be putting on a massive fight in Wichita Falls at K. Yeager Stadium or something. Coliseum, I think, is the name of it. And so that's June 25th, I believe, where that Saturday is. So
June 25th.
We will be going there for sure.
I'm sure we'll have some more info to share kind of in coming weeks as those things get lined out so that we can go and support our boy Tyson.
Of course. That's right.
And have a little fun. So
yeah.
You actually went to the gym, didn't you, Dustin?
I did last week. I went in the gym, and I
to
got
the boxing gym.
Yeah, to Tyson's gym.
To Tyson's gym,
right.
And got in the ring with him and went a few rounds. We both walked out of the ring, so I'm going to consider that a success.
He didn't limp out?
He totally, he didn't limp out. I didn't want to hurt his face before we get it put on all these posters for his fight. No, he definitely took it like drastically easy on me, but we had some fun. He taught me some things, and I'm excited. I think I'm gonna go back this week, and
heck yeah, dude.
I think it's gonna be like a once a week thing for me, just to get out there and kind of see that, be a part of it, and there's some other things that I'm working on with them too. So
yeah, that's really cool. And I don't think we even mentioned on the podcast yet, but you actually came and worked out with me in Wichita, and we got to get got a workout in together, and at my I guess hometown gym or whatever you guys have never been to, and that was a blast. And so
it was so much fun. I have a wish list for our gym here.
Yeah, I know.
After
this
seeing
one
that,
was massive. Yeah, much bigger than the one we have here. But proud of you for expanding your horizons and getting all these different experiences in. And that's one of my favorite things to do is just go look at other gyms and kind of see what they have.
Well, you know, when you're gym rats like us, right? It just comes naturally to.
How many times have y'all gone to a hotel and like fully knowing you're not going to work out while you're there, but I always have to ask, you go to gym? Can I see it? I want to go see it.
I ask every time, and I have the best of intentions to get there. Typically in those situations, I'm traveling with somebody, and they say, hey, we're going to do fill in the blank, and I never actually get the time to, unless that's an excuse. But I
number one lie we tell ourselves.
Dash my plans. But I do always go and check it out, and then I'm like, I could do fill in the blank. I could go do this kind of circuit.
Call me a gym rat, and I felt like Templeton in Charlotte's Web, you know, when he's all fat and happy. That's the kind of gym rat I want to be. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, round is a shape too, and so we are collectively in shape, yeah.
So you said something that made me want to think about our topic at hand. You said when I go to a place where they have a gym, like not a restaurant, but a restaurant needs a gym, maybe.
Be funny.
Maybe the gym needs a
What do you call those things? Good grief, I'm having
hotels?
A hotel.
Okay.
A brain fart of epic proportions here. Is that allowed? Can we say brain?
I know I've said fart a couple times. I remember my mom was like, Joe, you said fart on the podcast. That's the worst word in the world. I was like, I'm sorry, Mom.
All right, a hotel that has a gym. And also when you're out at the hotel, it is likely that you're going to be out to eat somewhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of what made me think about this. What do we tell people, and what do you and the three of us do when we are out to eat and the only option we have is the menu card in front of us?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what started all this, I think.
Yeah, it kind of started the conversation about talking about flexible dieting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flexible dieting.
Yeah, we'll break that into kind of how we can approach a restaurant menu and kind of stuff like that. But I think let's dive into kind of first off. Let's define what flexible dieting is. It's a weight loss plan or a body composition plan that allows food within a specific daily macronutrient target. And so it provides so much freedom in a food that we choose, and it helps us keep progressing in our health and fitness and aesthetic goals. And so if you're just someone who you are happy with the way that you are, you don't want to lose weight, you don't want to put on any muscle, this approach might be a little bit too extreme for you. But if this is something that you're like us here who we're wanting to lose weight and build muscle, this is a great approach that works very, very well. And so what I wanted to teach you today is basically how to sit down and write down your flexible dieting plan. That sound good?
Sounds great.
So if you're sitting at home or something, you might grab a piece of paper because we will be doing a little bit of math, but not much. You can always do most of it in your head or on your phone, but not while you're driving. Okay?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're driving, please do not try this at home.
Just pull over.
Or wait to do this till you get home.
Yeah, if you were driving, please do this at home.
That's right. That's the only time that ever makes sense.
It is, yeah.
Good call, Dustin.
All right, so first step in determining your flexible dieting plan is you have to determine, number one, what your goal is, and then determine your overall caloric goal. And so for us, like we mentioned, we're wanting to cut a little bit. We're wanting to take off a little bit of body fat and replace it with protein. Replace it with muscle. And so within flexible dieting, there's kind of three different goals that we kind of aim towards. There's cutting, there's maintaining, and then there's lean gaining.
Okay, now define lean gaining.
So, have you ever heard the term dirty bulk? So a lot of people like.
I have, but I'm
so
sure our listeners haven't.
There's a bulk where you're eating in a surplus, trying to put on muscle, but also knowing that you're also probably going to put on some body fat. And then there's dirty bulking, which is basically just what people use an excuse to just go off of the charts with their diet and with their calories. If like you see some big buff dude who's just eating pizza after pizza after pizza, he's telling himself, "Oh, I'm just dirty bulking. It's okay." But it's so that's kind of what dirty bulking is. So that's kind of the reverse of lean gaining is it's a healthy way to eat in a surplus.
Okay. So it's almost like if you're using the term dirty bulk, it's almost like a clean version.
It's a clean bulk, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And not in such a surplus to where you're going to be putting on tons of body fat, but enough of a caloric surplus where you have enough resources to allocate to building muscle, but also just a little bit of body fat. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So here's kind of where the math starts. And so we want to start by determining our caloric goal. So if you're cutting, this is, obviously losing fat. We want to have a daily caloric goal of eating 8 to 12 calories per pound of body weight. So the low end, that's kind of the more extreme end. You're going to lose weight a little bit faster. The higher end of that is obviously you're going to be it's going to be a little bit slower because it's obviously more calories. So if I'm I was going to pull out my calculator and do this for you. I'm 255, and so at 8 calories per pound, that's a little over 2,000 calories for me. And that's with if I'm super active, which I am right now, that's going to be probably a little bit too low. So if I was going to make this plan for myself, I would probably go to either maybe somewhere in the middle. So like 10 calories. And so that's about 25-50. That seems like that's going to be enough for me to where I'm not having to starve myself. I'll be fueled, but it doesn't allow a lot of flexibility for binging or going too far outside of my lines.
So when you're figuring these numbers, Joe, am I treating this more as I have to hit this minimum type approach to this number, or is this like I can't go above this maximum type number?
So with flexible dieting, as in general, it requires you to be as dialed in as possible and as
so more like an on the dot.
You want it to be as accurate as possible. Yeah, for the science that goes behind it to work as it promises, you have to be as dialed in as possible.
Okay,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
because I think about even 2,500 calories in a day. That sounds like a lot.
Yeah,
it's not for dudes our size, though.
It's not for us, but even for somebody like us, because we are all three around the same body weight.
Yeah,
that I think about the caloric, the macros of the food that we've been eating, and I'm like, I would need to eat so much of that food to get to that number.
Sure.
Really. Yeah.
And maybe not for me because I'm doing keto and so I have bacon and you know.
Yeah.
But like,
I think you would be surprised
if
you tracked it all.
If I'm doing chicken and that kind of stuff, then I would need a whole lot of chicken to get to that point.
Well, the magic is the magic of flexible dieting is in the macros, and so that's what this first step is just the overall umbrella of how many calories you'll be eating. And then the magic that comes in is hitting those macros.
Summing up, figuring the goals, right? Like you said, we're all in a cut. So if we factor our cut, we're giving ourselves 8 to 12 calories per pound of body weight.
Correct.
So 8 times our body weight or 12 times our body weight, somewhere within that range.
Somewhere within that range. The lowest being if you're not a super active person, or if you're just wanting to get as fast a results as possible, stay around the 8. If you're wanting to make it just slow, consistent progress of, and then if you're working out 5 or 6 times a week, I would go towards the 12 range.
Okay.
Do the apps that people use, like MyFitnessPal and those kind of things, do they use this as a formula for
they're probably using something different. And I'm glad you asked that question because formally, the best way that you can get your daily caloric goal is through like online calculators. And there's you can go out there and find macro calculators or calorie calculators anywhere. And where the flexible dieting, whoever wrote it, I don't even know, whoever made this program, where they researched thousands and thousands and thousands of different results from calculators, and they found that these numbers that we're talking about right now are the averages for what they're using. And so they just took all of that information and made it into a simple 8 to 12, basically.
Okay. Perfect.
Technically, the best way to do it is through like a DEXA scan or an underwater weighing scan, where it tells you your basal metabolic rate. Dustin, you just did yours.
I did.
You have yours, and so I would be curious to go do the math and compare it to what yours said you were at. Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
I do not.
Okay, that's fine. So now that we kind of talked out and kind of where our minds are, I do want to tell you the other goals and the other caloric goals for each one.
So say I have done my cut, I lost the weight that I want to lose, and I'm strictly like, I want to maintain, I want to hold on to this because I am happy where I'm at.
Yep.
What would I do numbers-wise if I was going for that?
Yeah. And so the maintenance, you were going to stay at a minimum of 12 calories per pound of body weight and a maximum of 16 calories per pound of body weight. And it's also important as you're doing this to weigh at least once a week. If you're going a long time without weighing, you never know if you're maintaining or not. So if you see that you're consistently doing 16 calories and you're putting on weight, that means you're above your maintenance. So you need to take it down a little bit.
You need to drop it a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So what if I'm like we said, I guess you called it lean gaining or bulking in a clean way? Yeah. What do I need to figure? What are my numbers for that?
And that goes from 16 to 18 calories per pound of body weight. And so
we've got cutting, which is 8 to 12 calories per pound of body weight. Maintenance, which is 12 to 16 calories per pound of body weight. And then lean gaining, which is 16 to 18 calories per pound of body weight.
Yep. And these three subsets are the best way that I believe this works is to, like I've talked about before, is doing cycling in and out of these different types of phases to keep your metabolism in your body from plateauing. So go through a cut phase and then go into a gaining phase, and then you can go to a cut phase and then go to a gaining phase. And then what happens is once you get to that point where you're happy, you can stick into that maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. So you have basically 3 different plans that you can go into with one umbrella of flexible dieting.
Yeah.
And you don't want to try to mix this with another diet plan, do you?
Not really. And we'll get to that here in a second. And I love the question, so bring it up here in a little bit. But let's talk about macros, because before we even talk about what foods we're eating, we gotta set down our plan. So, and I know we're probably making it sound like this is really super complicated, but if you just sit down and look at these numbers, you can have it figured out in a few minutes. But I just want you to know what's going behind, what our thoughts are behind this. And so now let's talk about macros. Macros are the main basis of flexible dieting. And so we have to determine how many grams of protein we're going to eat, how many grams of carb we're going to eat, and how many grams of fat we're going to eat. So let's start with protein. We always want to start, especially if our goal is to build muscle.
Keep going.
If we're going to build muscle, our goal is to eat enough protein, obviously. And so the best range for that is 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. And so you can do the math on that. If you just want to do that right in the middle, it'll be 1 gram per pound of body weight. And then carbs is the recommendation is 0.75 to 2 grams per pound of body weight. And that's if you're eating a low carb plan, you'll have to adjust. You'll have to take away some carbs and then add the fat. And then the fat is 0.2 to 0.4 grams per pound of body weight. So once you get home, you can sit down and write those out, and then we can talk about that later. But so protein 0.8 to 1.2, carbs 0.75 to 2 grams per pound of body weight, fat 0.2 to 0.4 grams per pound of body weight. All right. So now that we talked about that, you'll sit down, write down all of those goals, and then also you can just input those into the apps that you're using to track. And this is where the flexibility comes. Okay, so after we have, I know it's a lot, but stick with me. After you have these goals, you know exactly how much protein you can eat, how many carbs you can eat, how many grams of fat you can eat, and how many calories. This is where it becomes flexible. Another name for this diet is IIFYM, which stands for If It Fits Your Macros. Basically saying you can eat whatever you want as long as it fits your macros. So the science says even if you want to eat 2,550 calories a day of pizza, whatever, blah, 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 as long as you hit your protein goal, as long as you hit your carb goal, and as long as you hit your fat goal, you can eat whatever you want.
And again, you're trying to be as dialed in as possible.
And yeah, you do have to be dialed.
All of these as well.
Yes, on everything.
Yeah.
So the hardest part to me, thinking through this, is if I have a slice of pizza in front of me, how in the world am I going to figure out what the macros are on that?
Yeah. So and after this, we're going to talk about pros and cons. Okay. And so, one of the pros is this works very well whenever you're tracking accurately. Mm-hmm. The con is most people do not track accurately.
I see.
And so like if you use MyFitnessPal or Fat Secret, or there's all sorts of macro and weight calorie tracking apps. If you're using if you're eating pizza from like Pizza Hut or Domino's or Papa John's, one of the well-known places, all of those are dialed in pretty dang accurately. Mm-hmm. And it's when you start doing the homemade recipes where it's a little bit more difficult to track.
I see.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is the con of this is the fact that people. Okay, this is confusing because I feel it's going to sound like I'm backtracking, but the unhealthy approach to IIFYM is having the mindset that I can eat as much pizza as I want as long as it fits our macros.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the best way to approach it is eating healthy, well-rounded foods that hit your protein goal, that hit your carbs goal, but you'll have those extra couple hundred calories at the end of the day where you can eat whatever you want to gravitate towards. It has that room left in there that you can kind of eat,
so
indulge in those types of things.
In a sense, if you're approaching this properly, you have this position of yourself where I'm eating, I'm watching what I'm eating, I'm taking care of business and following my nutrition the way I need to. But I also have that little extra breathing room to where if I want a slice of pizza, I don't have to feel guilty about having that slice of pizza.
For sure.
As long as it fits within the parameters of what I have almost left over.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if for some reason you have an unhealthy breakfast, you log that in, and then now you know that for the rest of my meals, I'm probably done on my carbs, or I can't have any more carbs, or I've already hit my fat goal. I should probably go for a lean protein at the end of the day.
And that's so helpful in general. Like being able to figure those numbers just now. Like I'm going to go into MyFitnessPal and change the goals that I have just to fit it.
For sure.
But it's so interesting to me, man. Like that really helps. And it wasn't hard. Like I sat down and worked my numbers super quick, using just the averages, the middle of all those numbers. Like for cut. 10 calories per pound of body weight. I weigh about the same as you, Joe, so 25-40 is what I'm at. And then when I figure down my macros, using 1 gram per pound of body weight is 255 for protein, and then taking that middle for the carbs is about 318, and then the middle for that fat is about 76. And
Cool.
so it was super quick and easy for me to calculate all those, and now I have something to kind of look and go off of.
Yeah. One of the number one things that I'm asked people who are just needing help is like, how many calories should I eat? How much protein should I eat? And so, that's why this is the calculations that I like to use because it is so easy and so simple.
Okay, so now have a couple questions. Have you tried this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said in the pros, you said we'll work 100% of the time if your tracking is accurate.
Yeah.
Was your tracking accurate? Did it work?
Yeah. Whenever you put, I mean, if you think about how much, okay, this is probably going to steer people away from this, but it does require a lot of effort to track all of your meals, every single meal.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You have to care. Like, you
this
have
isn't
to
something.
want it.
I mean, once you do it for a couple months, like it's just becomes like super easy.
Right.
Like I'm trying to think the word. I can't. But
It
it's
becomes like
at second nature, basically.
Yeah.
And you don't even think about it. You just, I mean, well, most people do it while they're eating their meals, and they're, and there's apps now that you can even take pictures of your plate, and it's gonna give you a pretty dang good idea. So whether this is something that you can do for the rest of your life, maybe not, but I know all three of us, we have pretty serious goals. I know I do, at least, and so I have and it's going to take effort if you want change. You have to put effort into it, and so there are ways that you can cycle off of this into a kind of a more intuitive eating plan, to where you don't have to worry about calories, you don't have to worry about macros, you just eat foods that make you feel good, and that's a great place to be too. But also, if you have serious aesthetic goals to put on certain muscle, to lose certain fat, it requires some effort.
Requires effort, requires time, commitment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to be said about it, but key part, it's doable.
That's right. So I'm going to ask a selfish question with my second one.
Okay.
For me, I'm doing keto, and basically I watch one macro.
Oh.
I watch
carbs.
Yeah, I watch carbs.
Yeah.
That is the one macro that I actually care about.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of it is I don't keep up with how much fat I'm eating. I don't keep up with how much protein. So should I? What should I do with this flexible dieting regimen within the confines of my keto diet?
So number one, you do want to put on muscle, correct?
Always.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that you're hitting that minimum protein goal, which you likely are because of how much protein is required in a ketogenic diet.
Protein.
I know.
I mean, it's the main centerfold of every single meal. So likely you are, but also you might be surprised at how much you might not be eating. And so look at that. And then, so if I'm setting up someone a ketogenic macronutrient plan, I always start with the carb goal, make sure they're eating under that 25 grams, 30 grams, kind of wherever. And then I make sure that their protein goal is where it needs to be, at least 1 pound, or at least 0.8 to 1 pound, 1 gram per pound of body weight.
Yep.
And then the rest of the calories usually just comes from fat.
Okay.
So I don't ever push fat because that usually comes with all of the protein you're eating.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be inherited.
Yeah.
So for me, the calories are not going to be that. I should watch. I mean, I can't eat 5,000 calories a day.
Sure.
No.
But I don't really have to monitor that much with my caloric intake, because if I keep my macros in check, my calories are in turn going to be in check.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a check.
Yeah.
It's almost like a checks and balances system between the two of them.
Sure.
If you do one well, you're going to keep the other one in check. And if you do
For the most
other
part,
one,
yeah.
within reason.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me, just because I know I've done keto for a long time now.
Yeah.
I feel like I've done it for a long time, but it works for me, and I feel good doing it. So there are probably other people that don't do keto and that are on different programs, and they might want to talk to you about what they're specifically doing and what they would want to do with their macros. But anyway, I thought I'd ask the question.
No, I like it. The best way to approach something like this is by following the 80-20 rule. So, have y'all ever heard of the 80-20 rule? It applies to a lot of different things in life. But basically, the way it applies to the flexible dieting plan is 80% of my calories should come from whole natural foods, and the 20% of my calories can come from those kind of things that help me, or that are indulgent, basically. The Snickers or whatever, just ways. If you have that idea where, okay, this is going to fit inside of my goal, then you're less likely to overeat, as in someone who just said, forget it, I don't even care, I'm going to go overeat. I'm going to go eat the whole bowl of ice cream or the whole gallon or whatever, rather than having the idea of it just fitting inside of my plan. Yeah. So that's why I like it for the most part. It's not a free pass to just eat a bunch of crap. It's a free pass to have room for some cravings or something like that,
Yeah.
So with that in mind, how do I need to approach the menu at the restaurant?
Yeah,
I mean, because
the
the calorie intake, the calories for most food is now listed because it has to be. Even at McDonald's, the calories are up on the screen.
Yeah.
So how do I need to look at the menu and look at it differently if I'm looking at a flexible dieting 101 seminar?
So look at what you have allowed for the rest of the day. Look at it's a budget. Look at what kind of macros you have available, and then kind of there, it's a good way to do it is just a process of elimination. If I know I only have 20 grams of carbohydrates left, I know I probably should stay away from the bread-ridden, pasta-ridden type foods.
Sure.
And then also just look at ways, that you can customize things. If if I'm at Olive Garden and I know that I don't have very many carbs left, maybe I should think about, my favorite thing to do at Olive Garden is subbing pasta for broccoli, so I can get a big bowl of broccoli with grilled chicken and Alfredo sauce.
Yeah.
That's dang good. It's high calorie because Alfredo sauce, but it's low carb because there's no pasta.
Right.
So interesting.
Yeah. But just like you've said before, customization. Restaurants will always customize things.
I think there's so many places where we have the opportunity to make those substitutes, but we just aren't willing to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
I went and ate out this last week with family, and I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted French fries super bad. Did not let myself have them. Instead of having the fish and French fries I wanted, because it smelled dang good at the table next to me,
I bet.
I opted for hamburger steak, grilled onions, broccoli, and pinto beans. So it was like,
okay,
it's lower calorie than the alternative.
For sure.
A little more nutrition, I guess.
Yeah.
And I considered that a win. Could I have done better?
Sure.
Absolutely, but that was a win for me.
But still, at the end of the day, you knew you had a weigh-in coming.
I did.
And so it's funny how, and you and I had this conversation briefly the other day, how just saying verbally that we were going to commit to doing this with Tyson changed the way we ate.
Oh, absolutely. It was a click in my brain, boom, where I was like, okay,
now I'm accountable again.
Yeah.
Kind of that moment where you're like, man, I was doing pretty well, but I realized I'm not doing as well as I could.
Yeah.
And just that little bump of accountability.
The biggest change it makes for me is when I'm doing these things is the bulk of my meals do not change. What I eat did not change, but grabbing a couple chips that my daughter's eating, or
the in-between meal.
The in-between things where I just grab one thing here.
Dad tax from all your daughter's stuff.
Yes.
That is the best way to put it. Or if my wife went and got cookies, I wouldn't walk by and grab one. And those little, that probably 500 or 600 calories a day of just grabbing little things here and there. It makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference, especially when you break it down into what we've done today with the cut, the maintenance, and the gaining, because you can blow right through that.
Absolutely.
In a couple of handfuls of snacks.
You can go from a cut plan to a gaining plan real fast.
Yeah.
With those things.
Well, that's exciting. Well,
I hope that wasn't too much. I understand there was a lot of talking and just information and not a lot of great kind of discussions, but hopefully you can sit down, and I'll post these numbers on our Facebook and Instagram so that y'all can actually see them.
Sure.
But anyway, sorry for interrupting.
No, that's fine. I was reminded as we were talking through this quickly. I know we're wrapping up here. 1 Peter 3:15. Okay, it says, "But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect." So, you think about this plan. It basically comes down to always being ready to make a choice based on what you're committed to.
Yeah.
And I think through that passage of scripture, and I think about our relationship with Christ and how every opportunity that we encounter somebody on the road, in the restaurant, at the gas station, wherever we're at, we have to be ready to make a decision to speak about him, to talk about him, to make his name known and put him on display, just like we choose in our diet plan or our caloric intake or our macro intake for the day. We're going to make that conscious effort and that choice to go, yeah, this is what I'm committed to, and so this is what I'm going to talk about, and this is the choice I'm going to make. And I thought that it would make a pretty easy bridge to make that spiritually for us to go, yeah, we've got to be ready to make the choice on the menu board. We've got to be ready to make the choice with our mouth and with our heart, with our action, with our feet, with our eyes, whatever we allow, to be put into our bodies as well. So
I like that.
I thought I'd finish up with that today as a little hope and encouragement for everyone.
Nothing is more humbling than an impromptu conversation with an atheist as a Christian. Like, wow, they will, especially ones that are hardcore atheists that have probably read more of the Bible than you have, they will make you question how much effort you've put into understanding what you believe. That's for sure.
Yeah. Do you have a defense ready for that statement that you've said 100 times?
Exactly. Yes.
And that's kind of where you're at with this flexible dieting. Can you defend what you just put into your mouth based on what you want as a goal?
I like that. Yeah.
And sometimes we can, and often we cannot, just because we wanted it. But like Dustin, we make good choices.
Sometimes.
Get away from the French fries. And to echo you guys both, that was a dang good choice.
A dang good choice.
That's the word for the day.
Yeah. It's that setting there and you're smelling the French fries, you really want them, and then you bite into the broccoli and think about the French fries and, hope that it tastes just as good.
If you close your eyes and squint hard enough, maybe.
Typically it doesn't. But
there's a video out there where a lady has like a handful of French fries and it's like an Oreo, and she smells the Oreo. She's like, and then she takes a bite of broccoli, and then she sniffs the Oreo and then takes a bite of broccoli. Have you seen the dude with the bag of Doritos? No.
He literally has a big old bag of Doritos, stuffs his face into the bag, inhales, and then goes over and takes a bite of some kind of vegetable or something. and I'm like, man, I would cry.
I don't think that's worth even the effort do.
It makes a good video, though.
It sure does.
Yeah, it goes viral.
Yeah,
maybe we need to try that.
Hey.
You guys go right ahead. Jump in with both feet.
Oh, man.
Well, good deal. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope you've learned a little bit more about flexible dieting. Don't forget to check us out on social media platforms and look for these numbers so that when you get home and safely, you can do the math. You can set up your own flexible dieting plan if you're interested in doing that. Thank you, Joe, for the information on this. Yeah. It's been enlightening, and it's good to get a little bit more into the macro world of proteins, carbs, and fats. Yeah. And it's been good. I appreciate you.
If you don't want to go through the work of having to do that, that might be why people hire me to do it for them.
Yes.
And if you are interested, let me know, and I will coach you through this whole entire process.
Yeah. Yeah, working with Joe is an absolute pleasure. So if you need that little extra motivation and help, and hey, some accountability along the way,
he's your man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for listening to the Progressive Overload Podcast. We're honored to be a small part of your day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or are interested in sponsoring our efforts, please feel free to reach out via email. Find us at progressiveoverloadpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.
And as always, you can help us reach the masses by sharing our podcast with your friends and family. And then check us out on Facebook and Instagram to follow our own personal journeys and get an inside look on our day-to-day lives. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.